Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Halfway Through the Heat podcast. And today, I am, as always, joined with my co host, Tom. Tom, not so good today?
No, I'm incredibly unwell here in our Trans-Pacific halfway through the Heat studios, but I'm committed to finishing this out. I actually couldn't think of a wrestler who's famous for wrestling hurt. I'm sure they all do, but the only thing I could think of was Willis Reed, the New York Knicks player, who famously came into an NBA Finals game and inspired people. So think of me as Willis Reed this week.
I want to think of you as Chris Jericho wrestling with a broken arm.
That works too.
That's always good. But this week, we are going to be talking about a few topics. You've got, of course, our regular news. Um, and then we're going to be talking about our five favorite current angles that are running right now. So that should be interesting. Um, I'm also going to be talking about a wrestling game since that was requested by a bunch of people, actually. And this one is one of my absolute favorite wrestling games. So it's kind of a good choice. And then we're going to be talking about one thing that we think is underrated and another that we think is overrated. And of course, we'll start out the episode by saying something positive about Raw. So Tom, what do you have about Raw that was positive this week?
I thought this was an easy one because like you could just watch the first 20 minutes of Raw to get your positive thing. I thought the opening segment was great with Kevin Owens and John Cena, and then Owens having a terrific match against Adrian Neville. I liked how Cena comes out and does the Cena thing, and Owens just kind of shuts him down, and um, and then he had a great match with Neville with a clean finish. And it made sense because Neville's a former NXT champion who is confronting Owens, who he thinks is this dirtbag who's not worthy of the title. It was just old-fashioned classic wrestling, and then it steadily went downhill from there. But starting off with something positive about Raw.
I would tend to agree with that. The opening segment was really good, and overall, I thought Raw wasn't that bad on Monday. Like I can't think of any horrible parts. I mean, there were bad parts, but there weren't like anything that I was like cringing about. Um, but yeah, that consistently, I think John Cena is the best thing about Raw, and you know, it even makes me a little sad to have to say that.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because it seems so counterintuitive, but I mean he's really willing to like play the guy who makes Kevin Owens look good. Um, and I think that's fantastic because it's going over really well. One of the interesting things this week, I don't know if you saw this, but Kevin Nash threw some shade at Kevin Owens on Twitter, and
I did not see that. What?
yeah, Nash said, This is not a direct quote, but he said something like, thoughts on Kevin Owens. Do women really want him, and do men really want to be him? Right.
Yeah.
So he was casting aspersions, but I thought the opening segment of Raw was like a great example of why Kevin Owens is getting popular with people, even like in a mainstream wrestling program like Raw. Like he just does a lot of old school traditional wrestling stuff very well. And unlike Kevin Nash, Kevin Owens can actually wrestle.
Yeah, he's got a variety of moves instead
Yeah, I
of
think
six moves and half of which are punches.
we're, we're still waiting, by the way. If anyone out there listening to this, if you found a good Kevin Nash match,
We
send
we
it our way.
we have
We
a
will review it.
contender. We have a contender for that.
We do.
Yeah, somebody commented on the YouTube video of a match that they wanted us to watch, but since you're sick, we haven't been able to watch it.
We'll take a
But
look maybe next week. I wonder if it's the Shawn Michaels thing when Diesel was on his way out,
no,
which is really
it's
a good
not.
Shawn Michaels match.
It's not that. It's actually a WCW match with Kevin Nash versus Scott Hall. When when they're doing that angle that Scott Hall had to go to rehab, which was like
Oh
not an
God.
angle.
Wait, well, I can't wait to watch this because it also makes me wonder if one of the people who listens to this in comments on YouTube is Kevin Nash.
No, I know who it is. It's an Australian guy, so he's not
So
Kevin
he's
Nash.
not Kevin Nash. Okay, all right. Well, we'll take a look at it for next week. We have a contender for good Kevin Nash match, but I think since coming up from NXT, I think Kevin Owens has had more good matches like in the last month than Kevin Nash probably had during his entire WWF stint.
You are absolutely correct. See, the thing with that is that we would have I have trouble thinking of any good Kevin Nash matches, and I'm sure that someone will be able to tell us some maybe. But with Kevin Owens, it's easy. Like I haven't seen any bad Kevin Owens matches yet. I mean,
Yeah,
albeit I haven't seen any. I haven't seen very many, but you have seen a lot more than I have.
I have. His work in Ring of Honor and PWG in particular is really good, but he's been fantastic in NXT and Raw. I mean, that really was the highlight of Raw this week. And I mean, I think it went a little downhill from there, but I agree it wasn't a terrible Raw. There were some things that I just like. I don't understand what's happening with Seth Rollins and J Security. But again, this is something positive about Raw. We're getting far afield.
I don't even want to. I kind of enjoyed the things with Seth Rollins because like I mean it's not good for Seth Rollins himself because it makes him look like a complete loser.
True.
But like the segment is funny to me because like Seth Rollins is like, he's playing it up like he can do it, like it's almost like his face turn, like he's going against the authority, but
Right.
like it's to the point where like he's so awful at it that like people want to cheer for the authority instead. So like you can see in the crowd is cheering for J&J Security at that point. And like it, I think like if they're going in the direction I think they're going with it, it's good. If they're not, if it's just like a normal WWE kind of screw up with the booking, like it's awful. But like depending on the result of it, it could be really good because it's funny because like it seems like the opposite of what you'd expect to happen where like you'd expect he would cut that promo on the authority saying like I don't need you guys, I don't need Kane, I don't need you guys, blah blah blah, and then
Right.
like the crowd would go crazy and he'd be a face normally if this was like um the 1980s or whatever,
Right.
but instead like it made people hate him even more because he'd go out and lose to J&J Security and he'd he constantly is like trying to backpedal on half of what he said.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. And I will say that I don't think Seth Rollins gets enough credit for being like the sort of cowardly, whiny heel. He does that really well.
yeah, I think he's a
Um,
really good at being a heel, and I think it's good at being a heel in an actual heel way, unlike again Kevin Nash who wants to be the cool heel that everybody likes.
right.
It's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's in some ways it's old fashioned, but he's also doing things because like just breaking the rules isn't really enough to make you a heel anymore. Um, so like he embodies all these personal qualities that no one can be happy with. Like he's a coward, he's a suck up to people in power, but he like goes behind their back and like he can't fight his own bat. Like he's just a despicable human being. And he's done a really good job of getting people to boo him. I mean, like it's great whenever he comes out and people chant "You sold out" at him. I mean, it really shows that he's solidified himself in people's mind as this like conniving dirtbag.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm liking those angles. It's not like my favorite thing, but I think it's if they're doing what I think they're doing with it, it's a good job. If they're not, if they're just like booking him crappily and like then they're just gonna drop it afterwards, well, then it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's sort of, I think that maybe brings us, that's a good segue to bring us to the news segment. Because I guess the first thing we should talk about, albeit briefly, is this weekend, Money in the Bank. Um, and this is always sort of, it was one of their interesting pay per views because what is the plural of that? Is it pays per view? I don't know. Pay per views. Um, the idea is, of course, the winner gets this briefcase that entitles the winner to a title shot at any time, and it was famously cashed in at WrestleMania this year when cowardly heel Seth Rollins cashed it in and stole the title away from Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So, are you excited at all about Money in the Bank this weekend?
Not really. Money in the Bank. I think like the idea of it is kind of stupid. Um, I just I think it's like too gimmicky for me to care. And if you've noticed this about WWE's booking is like they can't do anything once. You know what I mean? Like even within the show, everything has to be done twice. So like Money in the Bank, it's a ladder match, so we have to book another ladder match on the show just for the hell of it. It it's like I don't know. It's just really weird to me. Like the not only like Money in the Bank has the ability to be good. I just think like it's not gonna be good because I mean, again, it has the same trouble that the Elimination Chamber had, and that like there's almost no chance that any of those people are going to win. Like the only thing people are going to be watching is Roman Reigns and Kane.
Yeah, and that so let's quickly that's a good let's run down the card about what's going to be happening and see if we're excited about any of this. First match is this will be on the pre-show. R Truth versus King Barrett.
Oh man, the the thing with that is like that could end up being a good match.
Yes. Yep.
Um, and like there, I think like the problem with R Truth is not that he's a bad wrestler. It's that like he's a comedy wrestler that's inconsistent with like a character. So like they just make they just send him out to do goofy things. Even Raw is an example of that, where he just comes out and cuts a promo about Money in the Bank, and then like,
Right.
oh wait, you're not even in the match. Oh, sorry, and then he leaves. That's like, it's funny, but like but it's not doing anything for him as a character. Like, it's not going to make you like R Truth anymore. It's just going to be like, oh, R Truth being goofy again, not winning any matches.
Yeah. And I agree completely. I think, especially when he was NWA heavyweight champion Ron Killings, he was great. Like he's a really good wrestler. He can go, but they just don't, back then he was booked as like this monster, this badass, and they just book him as like this wacky. He's like the Kramer of WWE. He just kind of like bursts in and says something funny and then leaves. Like he doesn't have anything to work with. So I think it could be a good match because also Barrett's a good wrestler, but like there's no reason for this match. Like there's nothing. It's like when you go to an indie show and there's just like two guys from out of town who they put together because they're sort of big names. Like you're gonna see a good match, but like there's no story. There's no reason for these guys to be wrestling other than they're both in town at the same time.
Yeah, that's probably why it's on the pre-show.
Yeah. Um. Next on the card, John Cena versus Kevin Owens. Obviously, I'm excited about this. Depending on how it turns out, like if Cena squashes Owens, I'll be very sad. But it doesn't seem they're going in that direction.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a Cena squash. Even if Cena wins, it's not going to be. I doubt it's going to be like a quick Cena wins kind of match.
Yeah.
Like I don't really care if Cena wins or not. It's not like a huge deal for me.
No, I don't either.
Um, it
Um.
it probably makes I want to say actually like what they should do is just give the U.S. Championship to Kevin Owens and then make him vacate the NXT title.
That's not a bad idea.
I mean, what it does is that like it 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 gets rid of the problem of him having to lose the NXT title and then suddenly be like on the main roster as a viable threat because like I think as your normal WWE fan, they'll look at NXT as like a lower level, like a lower tier wrestling kind of organization. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, to have him come into the organization as the NXT champ and then like I mean, he has to lose the NXT title to somebody in NXT. So having him lose it is going to be this situation where like, yeah, he's beating John Cena, but he just lost to this dude in NXT. How much of a threat is he?
Yeah.
And
No,
I
that's a good point. And that would also that would open things up a little bit in NXT in terms of, I mean, because right now you have two of their top guys are hurt, Sami Zayn and Hideo Itami, and Tyler Breeze or Finn Balor would be great with the title. So that would be a great way to give the title to someone without having Owens lose it in NXT.
Well, it's a good idea only because like okay, the NXT title is vacated. How do you fill it? Of course, you fill it with a tournament that shows
Tournament.
all of your talent doing what they can do. It gives a lot of people who aren't normally wrestling a chance to be wrestling. So like if they have anybody in the waiting in the wings to be pushed, like you've got a good idea going here because like you can put those people in the tournament and show that they can wrestle or show that they're good, even if they lose.
I agree. I'm a huge fan of tournaments. I think it's just a really like easy way to tell a good story. Like you don't have to do a lot of setup to get people interested in it. You just show the graphic of who's advancing into what round, and like that's your story. I think tournaments work pretty well.
Yeah, it fixes a lot of the things like you don't have to have Kevin Owens lose to anybody to and it maintains him as like a top kind of guy. So it maintains him as someone who beat John Cena and is now the U.S. champion and didn't lose to somebody that like your normal fan is going to consider like a lesser guy.
Right. Yeah, he's the guy who never lost in NXT, and that could be a future angle when the next NXT guy comes up. Um, so the Money in the Bank ladder match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match contract is this is like a clown car. It's Neville, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, Sheamus, Kane, and Roman Reigns. And people bet on wrestling. Like people bet money on it. And I would love to see the line on Kofi Kingston winning because it's like 1,000 to 1. I mean, I would love to see him win. I just don't think there's any way anybody but Roman Reigns and maybe Orton or Ziggler wins the the contract.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. I mean, the thing with that is that none of those guys have been positioned to seem like a even a contender for the heavyweight championship. Do you think Dolph Ziggler has been positioned to be like in championship matches? He's been like losing to Sheamus and losing to Rusev for months.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, no, and I think Roman Reigns has recovered really well from the sort of disaster at Royal Rumble, but I feel like people are warming up to him because his work in the ring is really good. But I think like thrusting the championship match contract on him is just going to push him down the ladder again and make people boo him again.
yeah, it's the predictable win here. Ro- um, if Roman Reigns wins it, it's very predictable. That's who everyone expects to win it. What we expect is that he's gonna come close to winning, and then Kane is gonna stop him, and then someone's gonna attack Kane, or he's gonna knock out Kane, and then at the last minute he's gonna get it.
I One of the things I think about the Money in the Bank contract is it's sort of better when a heel has it, right? Because then there's always Seth Rollins kept this going for almost a year. Like there's always the prospect that he's going to show up and ruin something by being a dirtbag and cashing in after like a guy has had a hard fought title defense. And there's really, other than Kane and Sheamus, there's really no heel in this match. I mean, Kofi Kingston kind of, but he's not going to win. Um,
I hope Kofi
and when I saw
Kingston wins.
Kane was added to this, it was like letting the air out of the tires of a car. It's like, why? Come on, Kane. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really know how well like a good guy is going to do with the contract. Like, he's not going to use it in a sneaky, underhanded way, which to me is the most interesting way to use the contract.
Well, I mean, they could be setting up a Roman Reigns heel turn where he uses it in a sneaky, underhanded way against like Dean Ambrose or something
That would be fantastic.
in the same night. I mean, you could do it like that night where Dean Ambrose gets his like monumental win over Seth Rollins that night, and then uh, Roman Reigns comes out to celebrate with him, and then like hits him with the Superman punch, cashes in the Money in the Bank, pins him, and takes the title.
I would love that.
That could
That
happen.
would be the kind of surprise that I would love. And I don't know. I think they should try Reigns as a heel for a while. People want to boo him right now, so why not run with it? But yeah, I'm just sort of I hope you're right. But that the next match on the card is Rollins versus Ambrose. I think that will probably be a good one. Those guys always have good matches together. Um, the New Day. Well, and actually, the Rollins Ambrose thing, we'll get to see kind of how I mean, how they're booking Rollins and his dispute with the Authority, how that works out.
Yeah,
Like
I hope it
I'm
works out
sure
well.
J&J Security will play some kind of role in that match.
Yeah, almost definitely.
I am looking forward to the tag team match, which is not something I often say, but it's the New Day against the Primetime Players, and I love that the New Day is defending the tag team championships under the Freebirds rule. because Kofi Kingston is in the ladder match for the contract, so it's Big E and Xavier Woods defending the title. I love that. I love the Freebirds rule. I think it's great, and I think both these teams are a lot of fun. And the New Day are getting over really well as bad guys, like relentlessly upbeat bad guys, and I think this could be a fun match.
I agree. I think it could be good. The the problem the problem with it is like I think the primetime players have zero chance of winning, and the reason I say that is because they have no character.
Yeah.
They're not like someone you want to put the title belts on because they don't have any. They're not characters. They just come out to their music and do that little like arm around each other dance, and then they're done.
That's
That's
right.
it. I don't know anything about those guys besides like they're good wrestlers and that's about it. It's I don't think it's because they're bad. I think it's because like there's nothing to associate people with them. They haven't.
No, and this
I mean, have you heard them cut a promo? Do they cut promos?
when Titus O'Neil was a heel, he was good at cutting heel promos, but now, of course, he's a good guy, so they can't have him do that anymore. And I think you're right, and I think this is a good illustration of a problem the WWE has, which is what to do with wrestlers who are black. People have said that black wrestlers don't get as much of a shot in the WWE, and like these teams are both good examples of that because the New Day was originally just like, hey, here's three black guys, right? And it was only because those three guys sort of got over as being like the relentlessly upbeat jerks that the crowd started getting into, booing them and stuff. But their gimmick was just like it's just like three black guys in matching gear. And that's kind of what the primetime players is too. Here's two black wrestlers and they're on a team together because what other team would they be on? I mean, I just think I don't know what the deal is there, but I think it's something they have to address because it's weird and it's definitely noticeable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It is very much like that. There is no reason, like the primetime players, like I said, they have. It's not that they have no reason to be together, I guess, but it seems like a very kind of cynical tag team. All of them do. I mean, it's a very just well, they're black dudes. We'll put them together.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea. I mean, all of the WWE is very much like that. I think it's very much like if you're black, you've got a lot less of a chance of getting over than if you're not. And I think, yeah, and it's not like there's not exceptions. Booker T was pretty over, right?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Booker T was over. You could make an argument for The Rock
yeah,
being
The
that he
Rock
was.
too. I mean, it's a little weird with The Rock because like the WWE doesn't really mention him as. It's like the WWE considers him Samoan and not black,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
even though
Um,
he's obviously black.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
his
And,
dad is a black guy.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think and he was sort of booked as an angry black guy in the Nation of Domination for a while, but like his real like star run was, hey, it's this guy who's part of this wrestling dynasty, and it's always you're right. It's always sort of like couch in terms of it's a Samoan wrestling dynasty, even though his dad was Rocky Johnson. I mean, like, not a Samoan. Um, but yeah, there's even like Harper and Rowan, they're just two big white guys in a team together, but they have this like degenerate hillbilly gimmick. Just, if you're going to have the primetime players be a team, fine, but there should be something other than it's two black guys with matching trunks.
Yeah, and I like Harper and Rowan. I think they should do more with those guys. It's just like
I do too.
WWE has no. Just I think the idea here is that WWE just hates tag teams. There's like no. They just like have it out of tradition.
Yep.
At this point. There's like they never do anything with the tag teams, and there's never enough tag teams that they seriously consider as like entertaining to do anything with. So like you know, beside before that like last the elimination chamber match with the tag teams, could you even remember that those tag teams existed? Like
No.
yeah, that's the thing. It's just there. Half of them were you'd never see on TV unless you're watching like Superstars or something.
Right.
And
Yeah. Los
uh,
Matadores.
yeah, or you have like I'm still like wondering what happened to the Usos.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what happened to the Lucha Dragons because they came up from NXT really quickly and then they vanished.
Are they back in NXT?
No. It's they just like I don't know, they just disappeared.
Yeah,
Maybe they're in the same place with the Usos.
yeah, possibly they're on Superstars and nobody's watching it.
That's right. I should probably watch Superstars. Um, the penultimate match is going to be, I think, a 5-star classic. I think Dave Meltzer is going to have to call this the first 5-star match in North America in years. It's going to be Ryback versus the Big Show.
Jesus.
I cannot believe. So I took like over 10 years off from watching wrestling, right? And I just started again like at the end of 2013. And one of the things that shocked me to the core was the seeing that the Big Show was still wrestling. I was tired of the Big Show in 1999. Like, I can't believe in 2015 he's still on pay-per-views.
Yeah, it's really weird. Um, the thing with the Big Show is that he was never like a really good wrestler or anything. Um, and he's been over the years like they just kind of use him against to lose against other people they want to show as big.
Right.
And they've used him like that so much that you can't go into a Big Show match really expecting him to win anything. He rarely ever wins anything. He's just there to make other people look good. So I guess like I can kind of understand why he's there for that reason, but
Yep.
none of his matches are ever going to be spectacular to watch. And teaming him with the Ryback or just Ryback, I don't know what his actual name is at this point because they refer to him two different ways.
Right.
But is it's not going to be exciting. Ryback is
No,
not exciting. I don't. I see that he's kind of people kind of like him for some reason, but
it's mystifying.
yeah, because he never has good matches.
No, yeah, to me he's just this huge he's like one of those 1980s power wrestlers who was never very good. Well, Jeep Swenson. This is the second mention of Jeep Swenson we've had since, but just like a huge guy with his great physique, but like he can't do a whole lot in the ring. And I mean, you look at somebody like Big E, who's also a huge guy with a great physique, but he goes. I mean, he jumps around and he takes crazy bumps and he's fun to watch. Ryback is kind of just like a power wrestler, and he's not the kind of guy who can carry Big Show to a good. I mean, I don't know anyone can really carry the Big Show to a good match at this point. I think the best place for Big Show is in tag matches, where he can basically just stand in the apron until it's time to come in and clean house. But this is going to be such a bad match. I mean, maybe I'll eat those words. Maybe we'll be on Sunday night. We'll just be marveling at the classic Ryback Big Show matchup. But I
The
don't
the
think so.
wrestling prowess of Ryback and the Big Show.
I know. We'll be like the Big Show hit a shooting star press. How'd? um. And speaking of wrestling clinics, the last match on the card is Nikki Bella versus Paige for the WWE Divas Championship,
Is
and
that
this is
is that the headline?
no. I think the headline is going to be the either the Rollins Ambrose match or the um, ladder match for the contract. I'm sure they'll put. I'm guessing they'll put Nikki versus Paige on between those two matches, to like cool the crowd down, or maybe after the Cena Owens match. Because let's be honest, that's not going to be a good match.
No, no, it's not. Man,
There's no story behind it. I don't even know who the face is and who the heel is. Like I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me. And I like Paige as a wrestler, and I think Nikki can be great as a heel. I just think I have no idea what's going on. They don't know what they're doing with their women's division. It's kind of like the tag team division. Like they just have it because they know they should have it, but they don't have any other reason. Like there's no compelling reason to care about it.
see, I think everybody says that. It's true. I'm not saying it's untrue, but to me, it has more strength coming from you because you're actually a big fan of women's wrestling.
I am. I am, and that's one of the reasons why it's so depressing, because literally everywhere else, even TNA, does it better. And the WWE has such resources, and they have one of the best women's wrestlers in Sarah Del Rey training, and they do it really well in NXT. Like it's just, I mean, you don't even have to look outside the company to see how it's done well. But once it's at this level, they just decide like these are going to be terrible matches with pointless feuds, and it's just going to be a reason to keep that show on E, the Total Divas show.
Yeah, it's weird because when they go into these matches, like they're always it always reminds me of watching the same kinds of women's matches in the 90s that the W in like the Attitude Era where it was just like reasons to have sexy girls roll around on the ground.
Right.
And it's bad because like they actually probably can wrestle in most cases.
Yeah,
And
Paige definitely can. Paige can wrestle.
and they just don't for some reason and it always looks terrible. And I don't know. It's weird because the WWE slash F was not always bad at women's wrestling. It's not. If you've ever watched any of like the early like the Madison Square Garden tapes from like 1983 or whatever, there's always like really good women's matches on those. And it's always, I mean, it's always like they're almost always from Japan, but they're always good matches.
Yeah,
And
even in the mid '90s when they had Medusa or Alundra Blaze, as she was called, and she was wrestling like Bull Nakano, like those were good matches.
yeah, those were all really good. And man, they just dropped way off from that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and I think it is similar to what you said about the tag teams. It's just like, okay, we're a wrestling company, so we have to have tag teams and we have to have women's wrestling. But it's like they do it reluctantly. They're like, okay, fine, we'll have the women come out and wrestle. Like it's just not. There's no thought put into it.
Yeah,
Um,
but NXT does it like a million times better.
yeah, that's the weird thing. Uh, so I'm looking at this as probably a C plus pay per view. There'll be some good matches. Um, and I mean, if Roman Reigns does that thing you said where he like wins the contract and then screws over Dean, it's an A. I mean, I would just love that, but we'll see. Mostly, I'm just excited about Ryback versus Big Show. Other news in brief. This is kind of cool. The NWA is starting a streaming service, kind of like New Japan and Chikara, and all your favorite streaming service, WWE for that matter. It's called NWA Classics. It's going to be launching soon, and it's going to be right now. The plan is roughly 800 hours of matches from the 60s to the 80s. And I, for one, am pretty excited about this because that's the golden age of the NWA, in my opinion. And that could be a lot of fun to watch those matches.
I agree. I think like I was talking about the WWE streaming service and asking like where are the NWA matches because I thought WWE probably owned the tapes, but apparently they don't.
They own the Jim Crockett promotion ones. So you get like uh, Starrcade 83, for example, which was an NWA event. And really, I mean, like up until whenever WCW came into existence, you watch WWE match, you watch the matches on the WWE network, and it's like, there's like NWA rings and stuff, and so it's kind of cool. But I think like for local TV and stuff outside Jim Crockett Promotions, they didn't own that. So I'm trying to think. Well, that might be interesting. So St. Louis, for example, is big wrestling territory. They don't own the St. Louis tapes. Um, so that'll be cool to like Harley Race in his prime and that kind of thing. But WWE also owns, for example, Championship Wrestling from Florida, their tape library. Um, so I'm kind of curious as to service. Is it all going to be like from like Rowdy Roddy Piper, like his young matches from Oregon? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I wonder exactly what they're going to be showing, but could be good. Who knows?
As long as it's not. Hello.
Yeah, you cut out there.
Oh, all right. We'll fix that in post production.
If I remember.
All right. So, is there any other news? I don't think so.
News. Did you want to talk about that Jim Ross thing?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like we could talk about that all night. But so Jim Ross, people have called this a rant, but it's not really a rant. He just posted something on his barbecue blog, kind of giving his thoughts on the business, and he said some interesting things. Some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with. But everyone's sort of talking about it this week. So basically, Jim Ross is unhappy with the state of the wrestling business, and And so, he starts off by saying nobody can cut a promo anymore, right? The vast majority of wrestlers these days are not good promo talents. Reason being is that creative staff seemingly have to justify their existence by role playing with these individuals and scripting virtually every word the talents say. Um, and so I agree with that actually, because I think, like, whenever I watch Roman Reigns in a real interview, like on television or something, he comes across as a charismatic guy who's sort of interesting. But then whenever he has to speak on WWE, it's you can tell he's just memorizing lines, and it's just not. It just seems phony.
I
Um,
agree. I think it's really weird because when you see them separately, it's not like the same kind of situation where, like, for example, The Rock got over or like Stone Cold got over. Those guys were just kind of going off by themselves. They're kind of going off the rails there. Whereas now I think most people don't have the option. And even like Brock Lesnar, who is like notoriously a bad interview, um, has managed to go off the rails a little bit and get over with stuff like the Suplex City thing.
yep.
It's like the one time he goes off the rails, everybody is loving it. And I think giving the other talent some opportunity to do that kind of thing, it would be nice. And I think I've heard some interviews. Um, Jim Cornette has actually talked about this same exact thing, and possibly it was in an interview with Jim Ross. But he was saying that, like, when they used to do the promos, like the entire promo sheet was one page when they did it when they were doing it before on TV in the 80s, I'd guess. And he said now he saw the promo and it's like a package. It's like a book.
Huh.
So they actually do have to write out all the stuff that they're talking about for each wrestler because instead of just giving them an outline of where the story is going and like letting them roll with it, they actually do write out all the stuff that they say. So it kind of makes for a less realistic, a less something you can kind of identify with because it's obviously scripted.
Yeah, I think that's right. When he moves on from that point, and this is where I start to disagree with him. He says, wrestling is best when it comes from a logical, realistic place and is executed inside the ring as an athletic contest built on common sense and not an acrobatic show that exposes the business as a sham with no selling and the complete lack of some talent's ability to properly apply an actual wrestling hold. The faster some talent perform, the louder they tell us their skill set is lacking and they are trying to get by on sensationalism instead of realism. And uh, to me, and he sort of addresses this later. He says like, "Well, I'm not, taking shots at Ring of Honor or Lucha Underground, but to me, it's clear that's what he's doing." Um, and that sounds really old. Like, it's not an acrobatic show. Enough with the flippity floppity flying. Like that to me is really old fashioned. Like the whole idea, like they don't even apply an actual. How come no one does the Boston Crab anymore? Harley Race finished with a suplex. Like the world has changed and what people want from wrestling has changed. And like I love watching stuff on Ring of Honor or on Chikara or the Indies where there's a lot of like high flying and sort of death defying stuff. And I know you can argue against that. You can say high risk maneuvers shorten careers. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that like people are essentially like destroying the suspension of disbelief by doing things that are sort of impressive and sensational feats, and that we should get back to like guys trading side headlocks on the canvas for 20 minutes. And that ship has sailed. I just don't think that's what people want from wrestling anymore.
Yeah, well, like the thing with that is that I half agree with him in the sense that he talks about a little bit in that, like, every week people are kicking out of other people's finishers, and he makes the point, like, if everybody can kick out of everybody's finishers, like everything they do has to get more and more extreme every time they go into the ring to beat somebody, because if people are getting kicked out of their finisher, then like it kind of lessens the power of everybody. And I kind of agree with that because I do think, like, Harley Race did end with a suplex. Hulk Hogan ends with a leg drop. I mean,
Right.
it's not like those are high impact, high devastating moves. It's just that they're built up in a way that's, you know, I mean, it's not even that they don't do that anymore. Roman Reigns' finisher is a Superman punch. That's not exactly like that's like a move you can do on the street.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Dean Ambrose's finish is basically a DDT.
Yeah, I mean, I think those kinds of things matter. I think it does matter. Like you can't. I mean, for example, when Jake Roberts' finisher was the DDT, and it was like sold as like this devastating maneuver. Like if you got hit with the DDT, you were probably going to die. That was like that
Right.
was the way they were selling it. And like what they did was like they banned everybody else in the company from using the DDT. So, when Jake Roberts used it, it was special. So you're not having anybody use that as just like a regular move, and they kind of are fine with it. And I think it makes sense because um, even like Cena is doing that like springboard stunner now, and like
Yep.
it is kind of silly that like okay we've been used to like the stunner being the kind of devastating maneuver that Stone Cold used for to like finish all of his matches. Now like Cena can do it like a even fancier one, yet people always kick out of it. Nobody ever gets pinned by that.
It's true. At the same time, I think for some of the guys who've been around a long time, I think there's sort of this resistance to stuff that's more athletic, like more like Lucha Underground or the X Division in TNA or Ring of Honor, where like in Ring of Honor, like where you have basically everybody jumps, does like suicide dives and things like that. And I think there's a sense that like it's too much. There's just too many high spots, and like there's not enough like cool down wrestling where it's like chin locks and sleeper holds and stuff. And I just don't think people want that anymore. I think that's not convincing to people anymore. Like, how many? You can't end a match with a sleeper hold now. you know, like you can end it with a submission hold, and a lot of people do. But like, you just things have to move on. Like, it's just like in basketball, nobody does a two-handed set shot anymore. Nobody in wrestling is really going to have the same like move set of, uh, I don't know, like Whipper Billy Watson or something.
Um, Roddy Piper's finisher is a sleeper hold, and I think
Yeah, but that was a long
yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, no,
Like you
but
could,
like the thing with it is like what I think Jim Ross makes sense with that is that it's not about the move that you do, it's how that the move is sold. So like like I was explaining with Jake Roberts and the DDT, like if somebody was wanted to have the sleeper hold as their finisher, if they sold it as like this kind of devastating thing, it would be good. I mean, it would get over because like you said, essentially, Dirty Deeds is DDT. Roman Reigns' finisher is a punch. The Big Show's
right?
finisher is a punch. I mean, it's not even a jumping punch. It's just a big giant guy punch.
The knockout punch.
Yeah, it's not like those are devastating maneuvers in any sense of the word because I mean realistically, if the Big Show punched you, you'd probably get knocked out. But
Yeah.
um, you know, it's not like something crazy. So when and I like high flying stuff. Like I like Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor like more than WWE any day. But like the uh, the thing with it is that when you have when everybody can do the shooting star press, it doesn't make the shooting star press impressive.
Well, I don't know. I think some move, when I go to see wrestling and some guy breaks out the shooting star press or something, I'm impressed. When you're there and when it looks like people have done something that by all rights they should not be getting up off the floor from, it's impressive when they do get up off the floor.
No, I
I'm
agree.
relieved.
I agree with that. I think like those kinds of moves are awesome. I love to see them too. I think they're great. But I think like if everybody does it, it loses its kind of flair, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I just think there's too much sort of romanticizing about like 1972 AWA, like guys trading chin locks back and forth for 15 minutes. I think that had its place, but these days you need to do something more if you want to entertain people. And I think one way that wrestling can kind of like establish itself is by having guys like Ricochet, smaller people who look like regular human beings. I mean, obviously in great shape, but who aren't like these huge bodybuilder types who can do all kinds of things that people who are not necessarily wrestling fans would see and say, "Whoa, how did he do that?"
No, I agree.
Um,
But I don't think that WWE like has totally knocked those people out. I mean, you've got Neville, who does like
right.
a shooting star press with a twist or whatever in the middle. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean NXT is a great pipeline for guys like that into WWE, and I think it's good. I mean I don't know. I wish Jim Ross had been a little more specific about who he's thinking about. But
my thought was that he was in at least some of that talking about John Cena, and in the sense that Cena was like kicking out of everybody's finisher for a week. For every week, he was kicking out of every wrestler's finisher. It was it's the kind of thing where I mean he was talking about the high flying stuff, and that's probably not he's probably is talking about Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor at that point. But
right,
when he's talking about kicking out of finishers, like um, I think that is almost definitely John Cena he's talking about.
yeah. Although I you go back to Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan would do the hulking up, which to me is more ridiculous than kicking out of finishers. Like some guys kicking you in the face or punching you in the face, and you're just getting angrier. Like, and he would do that every single match. But it worked because it was Hulk Hogan. I think Cena is booked as Superman, and the fact that he kicks out of finishers, it's not that dangerous because everyone knows Cena's going to kick out of finishers. Everyone knows Cena's going to kick at it too. Um, just like everyone knew Hulk was going to Hulk up and overcome the odds. I agree that when everyone starts doing it, it's a problem because not everyone is John Cena and not everyone is Hulk Hogan. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Food for thought from Jim Ross.
Yeah, I didn't think I think a lot of people were just like, oh, he's craggy old man. But like I think he does make a lot of valid points in his thing, even though I don't agree with everything.
Um, all right. So we should talk about our five favorite angles right now. I only have two because I'm sick.
Oh wow,
Um,
you're slacking. You can't just think of some off the top of your head.
I probably could, but they would be obviously untruthful, like the Ryback Big Show angle, which I can't even explain. I don't even know why they're fighting.
Because the Ryback said he was the big guy, and then the Big Show took advantage of that because he took offense to that because he's the Big Show.
That's a great angle. That's good storytelling.
That's
Um,
the actual angle, by the way.
oh my God, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so awful. And the people who
Okay.
came up with that all have college degrees. Like their creative team, it's all a bunch of like college graduates.
Okay, so I guess because I actually made an effort here and
Yep.
picked out my top five. We'll start with my number five, which I thought was the thing they're doing in TNA with Rockstar Spud. Um, have you been watching it? I don't know,
Yes, I have.
but he, he's like been constantly, he's like a little, he's little compared to everybody else. Like he's a little guy, but he like keeps, pulling out the kind of like Eye of the Tiger wins. And like he's won the X Division Championship, and he's going to cash it in to fight Angle at the next TNA pay per view or whatever it is. I don't know if it's a pay per view, just their next TNA probably. Um, but I think like they're doing it really good. Like they have EC3 come out like trying to convince him not to cash it in so he can get the title shot, and then he's like kind of showing like I considered you like my brother and we're friends, and now like I'm at a position where I can actually do something and I'm gonna do it. So he's gonna be fighting Angle, and like he goes in and he's always the underdog because he's like so much smaller, and he's kind of like he's Rockstar Spud, but like you kind of want him to win, like you. So I think like they're booking it really well because I kind of do want to see Rockstar Spud beat Kurt Angle for the title, even though like it's not realistic.
I like that angle. I've thought of a third too, so that's how quickly I work.
All
I just
right.
improvise.
So, but I think some of mine and yours are going to be overlapping. At least two of them.
Probably. All right, what's your
Um,
number four?
my number four is actually Owen Cena.
It's a great angle.
Um, yeah, it's we've talked about it a bunch already, so I won't really go into it. But yeah, the Owen Cena angle is really good. I think like it's made me like John Cena a lot more.
Yeah, and they've also done a great job in that's my number one angle, so we might as well talk about it now. And we've talked about it a bunch, but they've done a great job in convincing me, and I think convincing other people that Owens is like a legitimate threat to Cena. And they've done a really good job of building that up, and not in the way that like Rusev was. Like Cena has faced a lot of guys who are just like big monsters, and you know ultimately he's going to overcome them. But Owens is like he's a smart guy, and like he's funny on the mic, and like he's cuttingly sarcastic. And it kind of, in a way, it kind of reminds me of CM Punk. And I think Punk was Cena's best opponent for that reason. That like you knew he could outsmart Cena. And so, on Monday when Cena comes out and he's doing his version of the training and the prayer and the vitamins, uh, Owens comes out and he says something like, "Okay, well, I'm just going to ignore all that." Like he deflates Cena in a way that like Rusev can't do. And I think that's just great for the angle because it's a challenge to Cena more than just in his physical skills. It's like a kind of a challenge to his character.
I agree. It's really good. I mean, because he just comes out and Cena like will cut like a really good promo, and you're like, how is Kevin Owens gonna come back to that? Like, what is he gonna say? And then he comes out and he's just like, well, I'm just gonna ignore all that, whatever.
Yeah,
And it's really good. I think it like it's like, oh, that's an option you didn't think was gonna happen.
yeah,
So
it's
like.
great.
It's a really good angle, I think. Like it's a really strong one, and it's the best thing I think WWE has going for it.
Agreed. What's your number three?
It's the Jay Lethal meltdown.
All right, that's my number two.
It's good. It's good because I mean it's essentially the same angle that they ran in ECW with RVD and Taz, with like the TV
Yes,
champion and the ECW champion.
yes,
It's essentially the same angle, but it's a good angle. um,
it is. And Jay Lethal's a much different character than RVD. Like RVD was kind of like the smug, like whatever, dude, I'm the best. Whereas Jay Lethal's coming across as like a paranoid lunatic, like a genuinely delusional guy who's like is convinced he's better because he's the TV champion. I think that's a great way to go.
I agree. I think it's really entertaining to watch, and like those guys are both really great wrestlers, and they kind of work off each other's promos well. And I don't know, that it's a really good angle. It's probably the most interesting thing about watching Ring of Honor.
I agree. And when you think about it, it like you said, it's so simple and it's so old school. Like the guy with the number two belt wants the number one belt. Like that's the most basic storyline there is. But it's so weird how rarely that's utilized, like in WWE. Like the Intercontinental Champion should always be, trying to get the heavyweight championship. And then you just look at Ring of Honor and see how it can be done really well.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not. It's like the Jay Lethal one though is not even that he wants the belt. He just wants the champion to admit that his championship is better.
I know, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, it would be like in WWE they decided like whoever the Intercontinental Champion was going to come out and challenge the champion to like fight for the Intercontinental Championship because it's a better championship.
That would be a good angle. I would love that.
Yeah, that would I think that would be the thing they would have to do to elevate the Intercontinental Championship. It's not like put the belt on Cena. It's like make Cena chase the belt. That's the
Right.
thing. And that's what I think they've done really well in Ring of Honor with this is that it's not that because um Jay Briscoe is the champion, but he's forced to go after Jay Lethal because Jay Lethal is just like I don't care about your belt. My belt is
Right.
better. So you
Yeah.
should be coming after me, not me going after you. And like he's actually doing it. He's like at first he's just like you're delusional, and now he's kind of like now I'm actually going to go after it. And it does make the Ring of Honor TV Championship seem like an equivalent belt.
Right. That's the way you elevate the belt, right? Basically, you just say it long enough and you put it on a guy who's credible, who says, like, no, this is the only belt that matters, and people start believing it. I think it's great. I think it's great that, like, they make you believe that Jay Lethal is such a persistent, crazy person that Jay Briscoe finally can't ignore him anymore and, like, actually has to go after him.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good way they've actually elevated a lower belt. They've done it. It's there. It's it's like the really good example of how to do that. And I think, of course, ECW did it. and they did that. It was the same result that it elevated the TV championship in ECW, and
Yep,
I
definitely.
and I think like they're doing a good version of it, and it's also working. So I hope WWE take note.
My my number three, I guess, because I'm out of angles now. But my number three, I'm pretty sure this isn't an overlap. Is I like what they've done with Alexa Bliss in NXT. By they've achieved the rare double turn, right? Because for a while, Carmella would come out with Enzo Amore and Big Cass, and Enzo Amore and Big Cass are hugely over. People love those two guys because they're great on the microphone.
Because you
But
can't teach that.
you could because you can't teach that exactly. And yeah, they're like a much less annoying New Age Outlaws. But like the crowd hated Carmella for whatever reason. They just didn't like her, and like she would get booed. So it was a weird thing where like these two guys come out and everyone cheers, and they introduce Carmella and everyone boos. Like it just didn't fit. And by having Alexa Bliss turn heel, they've basically made people start cheering for Carmella because now people are like, "Oh, we hate Alexa, so we're gonna cheer on Carmella to see her get beat up." Um, and I did not care at all about Alexa Bliss before this. Like she was one of the most boring parts of NXT. She'd come out and you'd be like, "Oh God." Um, like her gimmick was that she was kind of a cheerleader, and that was it. And she was like really like bubbly and like would slap hands with the crowd and like and she'd come out and lose. And now she's good at being a heel. She's with the most boring tag team and makes them more interesting. Blake and Murphy, who I insist on calling Make and Blurfy, and she's in a real deal feud with Carmella. And it's not only turned the crowd against her, but it's turned the crowd in favor of Carmella. That's a hard thing to do, the double turn. So I'm actually interested in seeing where it goes, which is something I would have not have said about Alexa Bliss before.
That's a good one. That's not definitely not an overlap.
What is your number two?
My number two is the trios championship thing in Lucha Underground.
Okay.
Um, have you? Do you watched any of it?
A little bit, but this is very exciting news for me. I got Sling TV, so now I can watch El Rey Network. So now I'll be able to watch Lucha Underground as it happens.
You should because the trios championship thing with Angelico and Son of Havoc and Ivelisse is so good. Um, every week it's like the angle I'm looking most forward to seeing on Lucha Underground because they're yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen Angelico wrestle, but he's like this gangly, tall, like super tall, gangly guy. But he'll
Yep.
like run off like a 20-foot building and jump onto people. It's
Yeah.
it's awesome. But like, and then Son of Havoc can do like a million flips off the ropes and stuff. He's like does all these crazy high flying moves. Um, and like Evilise right now, like they've is like story in the storyline, she's Son of Havoc's ex girlfriend or whatever, so they hate each other, and like they have like no reason to have Angelico with them, but like they've just been put together as a team by by the boss, who is really, I just want to say like every angle in Lucha Underground is awesome. They're really like, as far as the storylines go for Lucha Underground, they're really really well put together, and even like the stupid ones are good. I mean, none of them are realistic,
Right.
and they're all like this weird like supernatural soap opera, but they're all done so well, and they're all put together like they'll seed things many episodes previously, and then they'll like bring them all together later on. You think like, what happened to that? And then like a couple episodes later, it'll show up again, and you'll be like, whoa, they were actually planning stuff. And like the thing with Angelico, Son of Havoc, and Evilise is that they've been thrown together as like these people who are like grudgingly fighting together because they're the champions, and like they were only thrown together as like a way for what is the boss's name? Dario Cuevo or something maybe.
Dario Cueto, yeah.
Yeah, he threw them together as like an excuse to get the trios champions to his guys, and like they keep pulling out wins even with like the odds really stacked against him. Like Evalise's leg is broken or something now. She like can't wrestle at all. and like they all hate each other, so they tag themselves in all the time, and they don't work as a team, but they still end up winning. And it's like a really, I don't know, it's a really interesting thing because like the dynamic between them is really good, and then like they're always pissing off Dario Cueto, so it's good. Um, but you know, extra special shout out to pretty much everything else in Lucha Underground too, because
I'm so excited that I'll be able to watch it like on TV and not like through shady internet connections or like the next day, like watching just matches and stuff and not and reading recaps. I'm very excited about getting El Rey Network.
it's
Sling TV, it's totally worth it.
yeah, it's really man, I could talk about Lucha Underground for a long time, I think, because it's totally unlike any other wrestling organizations because it's obviously like they're not even trying to be realistic.
Right.
They're not even trying to be like WWE type of realistic. It's like off the rails unrealistic, and it's really good because of it. You know, like even Vampiro is like suddenly interesting. It's
Now you're going way too far.
no, it's weird. Like I would have never have said that after like a month ago. But suddenly I'm interested in Vampiro.
Wow. So what is your number one angle?
My number one angle is the the way that they're doing the Bullet Club in New Japan. It's
Oh, okay,
it's
yeah.
essentially the NWO, but they're doing it like in a way that isn't the way that they kind of overbooked the NWO. So like the Bullet Club comes out and they're jerks. They're like the invading force. They're the invading foreigners in Japan, and it's great. But they've come out and they're jerks, and they're like, we're gonna take over, and then they've done it. They own all the titles in New Japan. They have every title. So it's the kind of thing where like they're being booked really strong and not like, they're not like pulling in everybody in the company to be part of the Bullet Club.
Right.
So it's like they've somehow recreated the same kind of feeling with the NWO, except they've avoided the pitfalls of like watering it down too much. So like every time they show up, it's really great because, like they're actually gonna, they're usually a champion of some kind, and they're actually going to be bringing like a great match, and it's not going to be overdone in a way that like you're just like, oh, I can't believe Buff Bagwell is a member now. It's not going to be like that. And I think like because they've taken the same kind of NWO thing and made it good, like made it. I mean, the NWO was good for a while, but the Bullet Club has like taken it to a level where like they're not repeating the mistakes that the NWO made to make it bad. And I'm like really enjoying it. Every time I see it happen, it's like it brings like a kind of nostalgic feeling to me of like the NWO, but also like it's you can expect much better matches. So
Yeah. All the guys in the Bullet Club can really go, and they're also great at being despicable.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, another thing that like unlike the NWO is that like the NWO started out like great at being despicable, but everybody wanted to be a cool heel after that, so they just became cool. Whereas the Bullet Club isn't like a cool heel faction; they're like a just a heel faction, and
Right.
they're awful. They all come out and they all do awful things, and they just do it really well. And I think watching the angles with them and watching them come out is really good. Like the Bullet Club is such a good thing right now, and like um, even they've shown up in like CMLL and stuff, and they've got like all these crossovers. They were in Ring of Honor. They're in New Japan. It's like the NWO done right after all this time, and I can't help but enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah. I agree, and I mean, I think they're heels in the great like old mode where you tune in or you pay to see them because you want to see them get their asses kicked. Like you hate them so much, you're like, I just want to see someone beat the Young Bucks. Like I just want to see them get their comeuppance. And that's how you make money in wrestling, right? That's what people since Gorgeous George. That's what's propelled the business, like having despicable jerks that you want to see get beat up.
Yeah, and they do a really good job of it. I think um, they're over as heels in a way that um, people will buy their shirts, but they still hate them.
Right.
And I think
Yep.
that's great. It's perfect because not all. I mean, it's the pinnacle of heelness. I think because people like them, but they don't. And
Right. I agree.
it's not in the situation where like you're a heel because everybody legit hates you. It's they're heels because people dislike their characters, but they like the wrestlers.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it.
And I think there's a distinction there because when there are plenty of people who were heels that people just hated as wrestlers too. Like anytime the Big Show was a heel.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not the same kind of thing. It's definitely a different vibe.
Yeah,
Um, all right. Well, so now you've got a game review coming up, and
I
I'm going to stagger off and throw up, and then I'll be back because that's how hardcore I am.
okay.
I'm like the new jack of this, but I'll be back in like 2 minutes. So
Don't fall off a
game.
scaffold. Don't break your
What
neck.
is the game?
The game we are going to be talking about this time, well, I'm going to be talking about this time, is the wrestling classic, WrestleFest. Now, WrestleFest came out in 1991, and it was an arcade only game made by Technos in Japan. And Technos has like a really kind of, I don't know, really good kind of legacy with their games. They've made a ton of famous games, Double Dragon, uh, all of the kind of Kunio-kun games that got ported, like Renegade and River City Ransom, Super Spike V-Ball, Super Dodgeball, Combat Tribes, and the guy who directed the game is the same director as all of those games. He also directed some of the weirdest Choaniki games, which are like these bodybuilder shooters. And overall, I think the game itself, the director is a really good director, and the company Technos Japan actually in 1991 is like their peak. They were pumping out the hits. So WrestleFest kind of came out in the arcade as it's a sequel to maybe Wrestling Superstars, but WrestleFest is this kind of late 90s character. It's got all of the characters you'd expect, plus some of the modes you'd expect. You've got your characters are Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Ted DiBiase, the Big Boss Man, Jake Roberts, Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, Sergeant Slaughter, and Demolition Smash and Demolition Crush. Not Axe, which because he was getting old by that point, and they brought in Crush. But the boss of the game is the Legion of Doom. If you can kind of pinpoint the era for WWF at that time. And what they did with this game was each character has like their own kind of, you know, their own special moves. They have their own move sets, and you'll be able to do the finishers with everybody. Except I think Demolition doesn't have their team finisher. They just have like a singles finisher. I think it's like a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for one of them, and maybe a power slam. But everybody else has their own kind of special moves. Jake Roberts does the DDT. Hulk Hogan will do the leg drop. The Ultimate Warrior will do the gorilla press. Ted DiBiase will do the $1 Million Dream. You've got all of those characters, and they're all. I mean, and it's a simple game. I'm pretty sure it only has two buttons, where it's just like a grapple and a move, or a grapple and a whip against the ropes. But the thing with it is like you could do a reasonable amount of moves. You could punch and kick, obviously. Um, the the game itself was, the characters are kind of cartoony. They look like characters from a Double Dragon game, and they kind of fight that way. It's a really good kind of system. It's simple yet fun. And you have your kind of two fighting modes, where you have the Saturday night's main event mode, which is nostalgic in itself. If anybody remembers watching Saturday night's main event in the 80s or early 90s, obviously, but and that mode is like your standard mode. But it's kind of to tie this back in with what we had mentioned before. The whole game in Saturday Night's main event mode is a tag team battles. Everybody is tag teams. You have to select two people on each team. So it's all tag team battles, and you go through the battles with the people you've selected for your tag team. So you can recreate the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior tag team, or you can use Demolition. I think you have to use Demolition together, but um, you can do all these things, and you're fighting the Legion of Doom. Who, when you get to the Legion of Doom, they come out and they cut a promo on you, and there's like Mean Gene is like interviewing them. I think it's Gene Okerlund at that point doing the interview in the game, but Legion of Doom will come out and actually cut a promo on you, and it's the my most remembered Legion of Doom promo actually because I've heard it so many times from playing this game. And when you this game actually has four player support, so you could play four people at the same time against each other in a match, or you could play two people on the same team against the computer. And really, it was a lot of fun to play this game. And um, the thing with it is that you could go through the game. I think there's not a lot of matches. You go through as a two-player tag team, and you fight the Legion of Doom, and then you have to defend your belt against a whole another set of tag teams, and then the Legion of Doom again. And then if you do that, you win. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to use your one character. There is the Royal Rumble mode where you'll start you start in the least favorable position of the one or the first or second person in the ring, and every it's maybe every minute or every 2 minutes a new wrestler will come down to the ring, and they'll like you can see them like cutting a little promo in the corner of the screen before they come down. It's really interesting. Like it's done in a way that's like really authentic to the way that the wrestling was at the time. And playing the game itself, like if you get, for example, if you get attacked by Legion of Doom and you lose, they have their finisher and they'll do it, the Doomsday device. So it's the kind of thing where it's pretty authentic. You can like do a million gorilla presses with the Ultimate Warrior and shake the ropes when he comes out. It's got like the little touches that make it a really interesting, fun kind of game. And as if you're thinking of playing it, I'll give you the tip of using Ted DiBiase all the time because he has like a running spinning elbow that's ultra cheap and you can kill everybody with it. So yeah, that is WrestleFest from Technos Japan in 1991, a game that I played constantly in the arcade, and a game that you should play also via, I guess, an arcade an arcade machine or MAME if you have that. So yeah, that is WrestleFest.
Yeah.
So Tom, we have a final segment here. Are you
Yeah.
back from being sick?
Yeah. I hope when you're listening to this at home, you all chant he's hardcore for me. Because I should not, by all rights, I should not have made it back. But I'm back. And for our final segment, it's called Overrated, Underrated. And this is something we'll be doing occasionally. There are many things in wrestling, as in life, that people like too much. And there are other things that they overlook. We're going to be nominating one thing that is overrated and one thing that is underrated, and we'll be alternating. I will start off this time, and I'm going to propose, hold on to your values, that steel cage matches are overrated and that Rhino is underrated. Let's discuss.
Okay, let's start with the steel cage matches because I really agree that steel cage matches are overrated because the way that steel cage matches are booked now it's stupid. um, like the reason steel cage matches were big, like in the 80s when you had a steel cage match, you knew it was going to be like a horror show.
Yes.
It was going to be like two guys in there like fighting for their lives and nobody was going to get out without being a bloody train wreck.
Yes.
It was going to be like the culmination of the kind of feud that these guys had because once it was over, you had a definitive winner and both of them were going to get the hell beat out of them. And like no matter what it was, I mean, no matter what, even like if we're talking about NWA, WCW chain link fence cage matches, or are you talking about the big thick blue bars of the WWF?
I
Um,
loved the blue cage.
I love the blue cage. They should bring that back. But either way, like it was going to be a mess. Someone was going to get bloodied, and it was going to be a horrible beatdown. But now the matches have none of that connotation. It's just a gimmick, and there's no blood allowed on WWE anymore. So there's not going to be that same kind of horrific beatdown that you knew was going to happen. And mostly it tends to be an excuse to have somebody outside the cage slam a door on somebody.
Which is done really effectively in the famous Kerry Von Erich Ric Flair match where Michael Hayes slammed the door on Kerry Von Erich, and that like started the epic Von Erich's Freebird feud. But like it happens every time now. It was shocking then because you're like, oh no, he turned on his friend. But now it's like, okay, what's gonna, Kane's gonna come down and slam the door, and that's gonna be it. Um, and I want to say, when I say they're overrated, I don't mean that there are not good steel cage matches. There are throughout history and even today. But in general, the way it's promoted is like this is the ultimate showdown. It's just not booked that way anymore. They're more disappointing than anything else, partly because of the blood. But even in indies, when you see a cage match in the indies, it's never quite as like epical as you want it to be. I mean, y- ultimately, like, you can have a good showdown match that doesn't have like a stipulation or a gimmick. Maybe like no disqualifications or something. But the steel cage is presented as like this is it. Like this is the ultimate. Like this is the finale. There's no coming back from this. This is horrific. And too often it just feels like a match that has this weird restriction because you can't do as much in a steel cage. Like nobody can fly through the ropes and go out to the outside of the ring, and it just doesn't have the same like this really does settle things feeling that like I think my favorite steel cage match of all time is Starrcade '83, Ric Flair and Harley Race, and that's just like two guys just beating the hell out of each other, and it's like a mess. There's some great above shots from a camera above the ring, and like you can just see the ring is just spattered in blood when these guys are wrestling, and that was fantastic. Steel cage matches don't have that end of the feud feel anymore. They just feel like, oh, it's time for a steel cage match,
Yeah,
and
that's a real problem, I think. It's a problem where like, you know, there's too many steel cage matches and they're not booked in a way that makes them feel strong. It just feels like, that's the thing with like almost any gimmick matches that when you water it down and you do it too often, it just makes it like just a gimmick. It doesn't make it something special. And like when you had a steel cage match in the 80s, it was a big deal because it didn't happen often. And when it did happen, it was always something special. It was always something crazy that was going to happen. And like even in the 90s when like do you remember when WCW had that like weird extensive cage match where it was like three cages on top of each other and like they
yes,
had to battle their way down or up, I don't remember, through the cages. I mean, it was like it was weird and crazy, and it was like a good way to kind of get the cage over again because it was like wild and kind of out there. But like that's the kind of thing you can only do once. And
right.
that was like the benefit of that is like, when you have the steel cage match, it should be something that like you do really sparingly, and then when you do it, it should have like a real meaning to it. Like, um, you know, we should be afraid that someone's going to die in there.
Yes. I also hate the WWE rule that one way to win a steel cage match is to escape the cage. That eliminates the whole purpose of being in a steel cage. The whole point should be there's no way to escape, and these two guys have to finally settle their differences once and for all inside a cage.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, it should be that when you're in the steel cage match, that you're in a cage. It's not
Yeah,
like that you're in there because the heel always runs away or like somebody always interferes or
exactly.
that's that's the reason for the steel cage match. The match is there so to the cage is there to keep people out and to keep other people from running away. It's there so that it's the knockout drag out brawl that like has to have a finish. The getting out of the cage part is dumb.
I agree. Um, Now, underrated Rhino, who's back on WWE television, at least in the NXT right now. Rhino's been around forever. And I was watching him wrestle Finn Balor last week, and it occurred to me, I thought, when we started watching ECW in the late 90s, Rhino felt like a guy who was given the ball too early. Like he felt like, because ECW was losing their guys to WCW and WWF left and right. Their top guys were just departing. And so it felt like Paul Heyman had to just like elevate guys who may not have been ready. And at the time, that's how I felt Rhino was. Like he was good, but like he was not like a Taz, or a Sabu or a Rob Van Dam or one of those guys who had really like defined the company, or even Shane Douglas. And so I always had in the back of my mind that Rhino was like, all right. But watching him in NXT has sent me back to YouTube to watch some of his matches after ECW folded. And Rhino had this like journey through the Indies and TNA. And it dawned on me last week. Rhino is a hell of a wrestler and like a really solid hand, both in the ring and on the microphone.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think like I would even say that they did a good job of getting him over in ECW, even though like it did seem fast. Like I think they made him into like a monster pretty quickly by I mean, did he gore like Sandman's wife through a table or
Yeah,
something? I
I
mean,
think he did. Yeah,
it's not exactly like the kind of thing where you couldn't take him not seriously after that. So they did kind of make him like a serious threat, even though like he was relatively new to ECW, I think. And I remember thinking like, yeah, he's kind of has the belt really early, but then they kind of pushed him like way over the line in a lot of cases, and it like made me think like, yeah, I guess Rhino is pretty good. And I'd seen him like a bunch of times in other places, and I always thought like Rhino is a good worker. And the problem with Rhino is that like he looks like Rhino.
right.
Like the way he looks is like not it's not a good look. It's like stringy, greasy hair and like that weird porno mustache. Um,
And now he's wrestling in a t-shirt too, which is like that's a sign that you've crested the hump in middle age.
yeah, it's not like he just he doesn't have a like a like a marketable look is what I want to say, but everything else about him is good. Like the only downside I can think of for Rhino is that he doesn't have a marketable look. He's a great wrestler. Has good matches with. I think like I can't think of any bad Rhino matches I've seen. I
That's a good point.
can think of
And he
like
has some positive like barn burners, and he could really take like a Rhino is the kind of guy who could have a match with Spike Dudley and make you believe it was credible.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's not that he's not like a Ryback.
Yes.
He's like billed as a monster, but he can back it up with some actual wrestling and actual like good matches. Like even when in ECW he had lots of matches that were like, you know, not super great, but like not bad either. I was never there were some people in ECW where I was just like, oh come on, can this match end? But like
Oh yeah.
Rhino was never one of those people. Rhino was like always at least entertaining. Where
Yes.
it's not like New Jack or
Oh man. Or
like
Balls Mahoney.
yeah, Balls Mahoney or Axel Rutten or any of those guys. But it's the kind of thing where I when we're at an ECW show and it's like Steve Carino fighting Dusty Rhodes through the audience, um, and then and you're like all excited by that, and the next match is Rhino or something, you wouldn't be like put off by that. But when the next match is actually New Jack, you're like, oh, bring
Yes.
out Rhino.
Yeah, and I think Rhino doesn't get his due as one of those ECW guys. When people talk about the greats of ECW, you hear, Raven and Dreamer and Sandman and the Dudleys and Taz and RVD and Shane Doug and rightly so. All those guys were fantastic. And Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Too Cold Scorpio and those guys, like they
And
were all
and
fantastic.
Antifaz del Norte.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course. Um, but Rhino doesn't, for whatever reason, he's not included in that. And I think maybe it's because he really was elevated at the time when ECW was kind of on his last legs. But he really is a solid guy. He's fun to watch. And the other thing I noticed too on NXT last week was that like his promo is really good. Like he has that ECW kind of house style where it's like quiet. He's not screaming all the time. He's just like it's like a guy who's like just laying out all the reasons why he's going to beat your ass in like a calm, measured tone. And it's so refreshing to see that because the WWE house style is so scripted, and it's like these faux declarations of principle, and when you have a guy who just like seems like he's really just speaking off the top of his head and really means that he's going to beat the hell out of you, it's much more effective. And it made me realize that I think Rhino is undervalued in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I would agree. What I want to say is why Rhino wouldn't be considered one of the kind of greats of ECW is that like he just didn't have enough time.
Yeah, I think so.
Not as a wrestler. I'm saying like ECW folded before like he had the chance to
Yeah, and
really.
and there weren't a lot of guys in ECW. Like he didn't have the same level of opponents that had been there 3 or 4 years earlier.
Yeah, which is it's not ECW's fault so much as like everybody stole their talent.
Right.
But
Yeah, but like it's one thing to like if you're going out and you're having matches against Chris Candido or Bam Bam Bigelow or Sabu, but if you're going out and you're having matches against like Danny Doring and Chris Chetty, not that those guys were bad, but they just weren't on the same level as the people who had been in ECW before. And so yeah, it's tough to be great when you don't have great opponents.
yeah, I think a lot of the guys at the end of ECW had like kind of got a short stick there because like they pulled the short stick because really they man, there was a lot of guys who were good but just weren't going to get over anywhere else. Um, Just Incredible was good.
Yep.
Um, Lance Storm kind of got over in other places, but not really, not to the same level at least.
No.
Um, Even those guys like Danny Doring and stuff. Think of people like Nova who were really over in ECW, but like outside of ECW, not really.
Right. Even guys like Kid Cash and Chris Hamrick and C.W. Anderson, who could really, get over in ECW, like those guys were not going to be big stars in WWE or in WCW.
Whatever happened to C.W. Anderson?
I don't know. He was in the Indies for a long time. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. I think there are other people using the Anderson gimmick. That's never going to die.
You just have to be a kind of a reddish hair guy that's balding.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um. Yeah. So.
That is it. That's all we got.
That's it for this show. If you know what happened to C.W. Anderson, let us know.
Or if
Um.
you and I guess next episode we should talk about that Kevin Nash match. I'll
Yes, we'll,
I'll
we'll
I'll,
watch that.
I'll try and find it and we'll talk about it in the next episode to see if it's actually good or not. Um,
Yes.
or if okay, I'm not. I'm gonna say that he was saying that this person is a Sega of my house on YouTube here, and he was telling me that he likes it because of the story. So it's possible that the match is going to be horrible.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
we're not looking for. We'll watch it definitely, but we're not looking for a good for Kevin Nash match.
yeah,
we're
good.
looking we're looking for a good Kevin Nash match.
Yeah, that's should be a clarification. Not good for Kevin Nash, but good overall.
Yeah,
But we will watch it and we will talk about it in the next episode.
that's
So,
right. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm Tom.
and I'm Joe, and you have a bunch of stuff you wanna plug here, your Tumblr and Twitter and
Yes, lots of wrestling on the Tumblr closetofanxiety.tumblr.com. This podcast will be posted there, also on our YouTube channel, which is X Corn Muffin X. And if you want to yell at me on Twitter for disparaging the steel cage, I am at TJ Breen.
yeah, I'm also on Twitter, but again, you should talk to Tom on Twitter because he's much more active than I am. Like I look at Twitter like once every 3 days or so.
I'll be tweeting disparagingly during the Money in the Bank. Well, maybe not disparagingly. I'll be tweeting during Money in the Bank,
I will not
and
because I'll be
I'll
at work. Or
I'll
actually,
be
it probably won't be. Actually, yeah, I will because it's on Sunday, which is Monday morning for me.
I'll be prostrate with excitement at the Ryback Big Show match. So
You'll be so excited you won't be able to tweet correctly. It's just gonna be a jumble of letters of excitement.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, because I'll have Maybe that's what I have now. Maybe I have Ryback fever. That's why I'm so sick. Um,
Ryback fever. Um, I what would the cure be? Eat more, I guess.
the only cure is more Ryback. All right, so that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with more wrestling, and until then, thanks for tuning in.
See you guys next week.